I have Roseli Weiss, and on my right, Carolyn Weisberg.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And thank you for doing this. These are two of the candidates who are seeking election to the school committee. There are four candidates seeking election for two open positions, and also running is Michelle Kirby, who is an incumbent, and Sophia Viglis. Both Sophia and Michelle had conflicts tonight and were not able to attend. We did try to schedule around various people's schedules, but it was busy. So I'm glad to have two of our candidates here to be able to provide an introduction to the town, a further introduction to the town, and talk about some of the issues that are so important having to do with our schools. So the format is going to be quite simple. Going to give each of our candidates an opportunity to be able to make just a 2-minute introduction to the town and an opening statement of sorts. And then we'll go through a series of questions that we prepared as a group, as the partners and hosts. And as we move to the end, we will have just an opportunity to be able to conclude. So. First of all, I always start whenever I'm around candidates, the lifeblood of Medfield, more than even most other towns, is all the volunteership, including the people that step forward to be candidates for office. And so thank you for doing that. It's always more healthy, I think, to have elections in which there are choices and where people do this kind of thing, get in front of the voters and talk about what they believe and what they would like to do and why they are running. So with that as a beginning, Rosalie, if you want to just start by making your opening statement, that would be great.
Thank you. I want to thank Medfield TV and Katie Duval, Executive Director, for organizing this evening. I want to thank Scott McDermott for moderating, and thank you to everyone else who helped to organize this evening. I appreciate the opportunity to share my experience and my thoughts about public education. The main reason we have a public school is to provide the best we have to offer to the children of Medfield. A good education is their ticket to a good quality life, and a life as a good citizen of a representative democracy. My name is Roseli Weiss. I am a candidate for the Medfield School Committee. My husband and I have lived in Medfield since 1990. Our two sons graduated from Medfield High School. I am a retired public school superintendent, a former principal, a former curriculum director, and teacher. I am up to date on public school issues and wish to be a positive contributor to the Medfield school system. I have had many experiences during my career which support my knowledge and ability to begin to work with the members of the school committee, superintendents, staff, students, and community members on day one. I am a team player, but always will be willing to speak my mind in a collaborative process that will work for continued excellence in Medfield for the school district. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Caroline.
Hi, everyone. I'm Caroline Waisberg. I'm a mom of two. I have a junior in high school, and I have a seventh grader. We arrived in Medfield not too long ago, after many years of training for my husband's career. And to our surprise, Medfield really welcomed and embraced us and surprised us, as I mentioned, for my son is receiving a fantastic education. The Medfield public school system is far above from everything and anything that we have ever experienced. And I'm very, very grateful to have ended up here. I would love to give back to the community and make sure that we continue to provide an excellent education to every student that we have here in Medfield. And I believe that the fact that we traveled so much and had so many different experiences along, our path here gives me a very broad perspective on on different school systems, on what works, and strong communities versus not so strong communities. Um, I tend to be a more quiet person, so this moment here is very challenging for me. I listen way more than I talk. And I believe that's also a positive trait. Thank you so much, and thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you. I guess my first question is like, what was the impulse, the motivation to be a candidate, for the school committee this year? What was the driver? We'll start with you.
Well, as I mentioned, I've had many years of experience in public education, and I've worked at the very top as a school superintendent as well as a teacher. And I feel that a public school system is the hallmark of any town. As a matter of fact, there was an article printed not long ago that gave Medfield a number 8 out of 141 cities and towns, and certainly highly rated the school system. I have the time now and the expertise and the information to be a participant in, to hopefully give back my experiences, the information that I've gained, and the other things that I've done. I'm very much aware of the modern issues that we face: cell phone use, post-MCAS, the building authority, the Massachusetts School Building Authority, and I participated with that building authority in 2 other school districts. So I think that my expertise and the fact that I now have the time to devote to public education and the desire to give back to my town is something that has propelled me forward.
That's great. Great, thank you. Carolyn, you want to just, was there a time when you said, I'm going to run for this office, and what was it that propelled you?
2 things. I saw on the Medfield, the local paper, about the elections coming, and my children, both of them, said, "Mom, you should run. We've been to so many places. You're always room parent. You should run." So I was stimulated by them. And also the fact that we changed administrations. I do not want to get political, but things are changing, things are different, and we don't know what these changes are bringing. So this was also a force behind this.
Well, thank you. One of the issues is, for the school committee is always, how does the school committee build bridges to parents, obviously, but also to other folks in town, residents of the town, other people who are kind of stakeholders in the schools by virtue of being in town. And it's not always easy to kind of promote that communication about what's going on, the value of schools, and why it makes a difference. Why don't I start with you, Caroline? Any thoughts on how to promote communication or inspire or encourage more engagement between the schools and the residents of the town?
Of course, we are living a different era where we have all the information on our hands. So I truly believe that if social media can ruin children's mental health, it should always help us to get the information we need. And I believe that social media can help us communicating and will help us keep up with what's going on. I find it interesting because I follow the library and I find so many things that happen at the library through social media, through Instagram or Facebook, and parents do use Facebook and Instagram to communicate about the music program, and I even see what's happening at Blake Middle School through Instagram. So I believe social media would be a great bridge.
Well, I believe that the school committee provides a voice for children and a communication device between school and community. When I was a superintendent, I not only communicated, I actually held coffees in people's homes and was able to invite them in an atmosphere that was certainly less daunting than being in the school district. I would want to meet every principal, walk through the schools, let them know that I am there for them. I've been to 3 school committee meetings since I began my trek toward the election day, and I believe that it would be my responsibility to be interconnected. So when I speak to the community, it can be through participating in newsletters or going out, as I said, to the schools, or actually going to PTO meetings, PTA meetings, going to school council meetings with students, because I believe that they too have a voice in all of this. And I would like to use their voice to help me determine which way I might be thinking in terms of what's next for the school district. I think parents are extremely important, and the community needs to be integrated into what goes on. So voice for the community can be either through social media, it can also be through personal interaction. And I think that's something that I'm quite used to and comfortable doing, and I would like to continue that.
Okay, well, thank you both. My next question goes to the balancing of, our efforts to have great schools, which I think everybody gets behind, high-quality schools, yet we also live in a town that is always going to be constrained financially by the fact that our revenues are mostly raised from the residential tax base, and the schools constitute, as you both know, a significant proportion of that budget. How do you think about how that balance is struck? The ability to be able to build great schools, and the ability to be able to do it in the context of where we have to be, I think, very realistic in Medfield. We don't have, in Westwood, I know at one point when they built University Station, that was a big boost. And in Natick, when they did some work over there years ago, I remember just seeing the amount of revenue that was being achieved through things that we don't have in Medfield. So that balance, I guess, is what I'm looking for.
Well, already our cost per pupil is lower than the state average. I think our cost per pupil is $19,000 and the average is $21,000. However, we've seemed to have gotten over that and through that by still providing a very excellent school district. I think my experience in looking at the budget and trying to make changes in the budget without actually hurting the programs is important, and I would like to be able to provide some of my background to do that. I think you always have to balance, but if you don't have a strong school system, you're not going to invite other people to want to come. Because as I said before, the hallmark of a very strong town is a very strong school district. And that's our way of giving back to students and saying, your education is very important, and from that education you will be able to go out and be the best you can be. So we have a responsibility to the children in this community to provide the very best, not only for the students, but also to make sure that our teachers have the best opportunity to teach as well. Which is why, as we think about working with Dale Street School, we have to look to see what the best opportunities will be to provide that. It's always a difficult balance, but I think if we neglect our public schools, we probably neglect what makes our town as attractive as it is.
Thank you. Caroline.
Beautifully said. Our town is special because of our schools. And Roseli, you said it all. It's hard to balance a budget. I mean, every single person here knows this. I have 2 children, and they certainly both wish I were a millionaire. Because it's just hard. You're always having to give here and put less over there. So this is the reality that we're living in. And now with the current situation in the government, we don't know. We don't know if how budget is going to be. It's going to be a challenge for sure, because we're dealing with uncertainty. And that's the truth. Roseli said it all. We just have to try to keep doing the good work that we're already doing.
Well said by both of you, but beyond that, we also have a project that we're all aware of, right? That is very significant, will be very impactful. We all think here, I'm sure, in a very positive way for the town of Medfield, but it's going to be a very significant project economically. And how are you thinking about it? As we all know, we were accepted into the MSBA program in December, so the school building committee is really building momentum, and so this is coming our way again. And so just interested in thoughts. I can't remember who I started with last time. Maybe we'll go, Caroline, let you go first on this one. Just speak to the, the efforts of the school building committee and the relationship of the school committee to, to adding to the momentum I was just referencing.
Well, I I thought about it. I think it's an improvement. It would be it's how am I going to put it? I support the changes that we're doing. I support the project, and it's my feeling is we'll just have to balance. We'll have to deal with it as it comes. I honestly,
Yep.
this is my 50 cents here.
Okay, Rosalind.
Well, I believe that the school is going to be rehabbed or rebuilt for 500 students. Presently, we have upwards of 300, I believe. The school was built in 1942. It was extended in 1962. So the question will be for the building committee and the school committee and ultimately the community is whether rehabbing the building or rebuilding the building is going to give us the most economically and for feasibility. We are teaching in the year 2025, so we have to think about whether we can actually rehab the building and make it work for the modern teaching or whether we need to rebuild. And I don't think any of us knows quite yet what that will be. I am open to whatever seems to make the most sense for the community and for the children and for the parents and for everybody else who teaches there. So it's hard to say right now what would be the best way to go, but I think we'll know very soon. And the school committee is the one that has the final look at things. The building committee speaks to the school committee. The school committee should go out to the community, find out what the community feels is best, and try to take all those opinions and put it together to come up with the very best solution that we can do.
May circle around to that since it's such a, a big item, but let's talk about some other things that are just things that I think about all the time around public education. My kids have went through the Medfield schools, and I try to look back and think about these issues in context. But let's talk about technology and education, both the personal technologies that students have. Somebody referenced cell phones,
I do.
and but also the way that technology can be used to enhance, and your general thoughts of that.
Well, when I was in the public schools, we did use technology for the purpose of curriculum study. So as long as you can make sure that students are using technology in an appropriate way educationally, then I think we should use technology to its advantage. The problem is that when it's not being used for the purpose of education, it can sometimes be used inappropriately. So right now the state is tackling whether students should have cell phones or not. I believe in Medfield, they take the cell phones in high school and put them in a cubby, and in some ways that relieves students from the pressure to use the technology. But again, if it's used appropriately, then I think it adds to the curriculum. It's a question of how to balance that use correctly versus the use that is more social and less, I think, supportive of curriculum. So we have to look at both. But there will be a time where every school district will have to send its policy to the state. And right now, I think the state is heading toward no cell phones in the school. But once again, your question is very important because there is a place for technology, and how we harness that to good education is something we really have to talk about.
I believe technology is great, and it has, as Ms. Weiss said, a place. But it's changing so fast. Take ChatGPT, for example. We'll have to certainly adapt to that. With ChatGPT, you can write a college-grade essay in minutes. You just put the prompts in there, and so we'll have to just keep adapting, and that's going to be a ginormous challenge. It is a challenge already for colleges and for schools. In regards to cell phones and devices, I tend to be a granola person, so my children took a while to have cell phones and computers. There's still no cell phones in the bedroom, never on the table. I do not believe they're great for social interaction. So it's just trying to reach that balance at school, and that balance also can come from home. Um, at home, we should all have a balanced relationship with our devices. So, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that I think a lot of parents of young children, whether they're young parents or not, get very concerned about whether their children should have cell phones and at what age. And I think part of the work we can do in the school district is to try to hold meetings and help parents of young children or young parents to give their kids limits, to figure out how to talk to their children about the uses of technology or not using their cell phones. And that I think we can do something about as a school district. Also, we can help support parent-teacher organizations by giving them some ideas as well.
Any other thoughts?
I did. No, I think technology is great. We just have to keep up with it and just try to use it for the best, for the good of school.
Switching gears a little bit, I want to talk about teachers and, you know, how do we make sure that we're recruiting and retaining and providing for the professional development of, you know, our teachers, kind of, you know, at the essence of where education takes place. And, you know, any thoughts on how do we become that draw, that magnet, and do all the things we need to get the retention of, you know, of these high quality teachers and to see that they continue to grow in their role. Thoughts?
Yes. Very easy, money, right? We have to be, it's a competitive market. The more we offer, the more we can keep. And of course, we'll keep the best if we offer more. Also, every single person likes to be in an environment that they enjoy and that they feel wanted. They feel that they get more from it, right? That basically we're happy at. So just try to. It would be great if we could offer them so much money, right? And so just have competitive salaries and try to give them a good environment at our schools. So that's how I believe we can get good
Thank you.
teachers.
Well, money is very important. However, there's also the climate of each school and the climate of a school district. There's also the diversity in curriculum and opportunities to teach different types of curriculum to students. There's also the capacity of students to learn and their interest in learning. So I think the culture and the climate of every school is very important, and of a school district, to encourage teachers to come in and not only make the money that we hope we can offer them, but even without that, you can make a lot of money and be miserable if the culture and the climate is not supportive of teachers and of people who work in the schools and of children. And most importantly, I think professional development is very helpful. When I was a superintendent, I actually had professional development for all teachers to make sure we were starting from zero base and all coming up to the same point. So you don't have some teachers who know more about critical and creative thinking than others. You can decide what kind of professional development you need, and that professional development educates people, opens up their minds, and opens up their ability to teach, along with the environment and the atmosphere of each actual school building. So you have good heat, and you have good air conditioning, and you have a library that caters to the needs of all children and professionals.
Great. Next question, I guess, would focus on the issue of how do we ensure a safe and an inclusive and a supportive learning environment, for all students, and particularly students who have diverse needs and interests, and particularly, parenthetically, I guess, in this climate, in this world. What is the role of the school committee in providing, that inclusivity, the supportive and safe environment, for all students?
Well, the school committee is the final arbiter in many cases of the curriculum. Of course, with parent input, community input, teacher input, certainly the administrator's input. We also have to be thinking of diversity in terms of no longer having MCAS. And as King George said in the musical Hamilton, you've been freed from MCAS, but what comes next? And so we need to focus on graduation requirements and the establishment of competency and masteries of skills, and not looking so much at tests as we are looking at students and how they gain information. The other piece is critical and creative thinking, how to help kids open their minds rather than close them. I think civics is important to establish equity and to help students leave the school district as responsible citizens who understand the way a representative democracy works. And I think that we need to make sure that all children, whether they have special needs or not, are given the support they need, however we do that. Sometimes we have tutors, sometimes we can support children in the classroom, sometimes we need to pull out and give a little more support, but all of those aspects are very important in making sure everyone has an equitable opportunity to graduate from Medfield High School ready to go in whatever area they want to pursue.
Yes, every student is different. We all learn in different ways, and more, I believe that we are figuring out different learners, different people different pathways in our brains, and how we are all different learners, visual, or some people like to listen more than see things. So basically, just try to cater to different the differences that students have. Having said that, I believe that we are doing a good job in that here in Medfield. My son has an IEP, and it's been night and day, the experience that he has here in Medfield compared to the other schools he's been at. It's once you sort it out, once you realize the differences that people have, and you can help them with that, everything falls into place. So I think actually we're doing a great job with this in including students, and the extracurriculars too that Medfield offers. There is something for everyone, and I love that. There's so many, and there are things for kids who don't like to do sports, that are activities for sportsy kids. We're doing a good job, and that's...
May I add one more?
Please comment, yeah.
I think, too, the beginning of school is so very important. So having a good, strong preschool, having a good, strong kindergarten, gets students ready to go into first grade. And I would agree that the opportunity to be in sports, as one of my sons was, but also in the drama club, in debating club, and in anything you can offer students to strengthen their skills is important. So that helps with diversity and equity. But I do believe early childhood education is a wonderful beginning, and I hope that we continue to provide that so everybody's ready for first grade.
I had a question about standardized tests and assessments, and you kind of already have given away a little bit of your thinking of that. If you want to add to that a little bit, and then Caroline will ask you about the same question.
Well, we need to have graduation requirements. There's no doubt about that. And we have to have a situation where students can demonstrate competency and mastery skills, inclusive of reading, math, science, and history. The problem with the MCAS was it narrowed the opportunities and didn't enhance them. So teachers were forced to teach to a test rather than to educational needs or critical and creative thinking. So each district will now have to adopt a competency determination policy and establish an appeals process as well. And this will be approved at the school district level, but then have to go to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. We want to find more than standards-based opportunities. We don't want test-based opportunities. I think that will broaden the ability of students to show competency in areas that they're good in. And I think it will give teachers more of an opportunity to spread their wings and to teach the things that they feel are valuable to increase opportunities. So I'm looking forward to what will come next. As I mentioned, what next now? You can't just get rid of MCAS and not have something that will make sure that we test competency. There are also frameworks still in Massachusetts, so we still need to abide by those frameworks. But I think this will give us a chance to enhance and widen rather than narrow.
Thank you.
About the tests, all I know is that the children detest them, right? But I do wonder what's going to happen now that we got rid of them. I don't know. I think we'll have to adapt, as always. We'll have to figure out ways of making sure that people are ready.
I want to just circle back a little bit to the issue of, connecting with residents, parents, but also the residents. It seems like it's going to be such a factor in terms of our ability to be able to appreciating the dynamics in Medfield to get a school built. We need a 2/3 vote to do that. So I think about how does the message of the value of, to me, we have a fabric of a community, and it's a predominant thread in that, in that fabric. How does that get projected? And what's the role of the school committee in telling that story in a way that gets the broader community beyond parents or beyond people who may have warm feelings about the schools connected to the value of schools for the the building of community and for the town?
Food. When I was a superintendent, I had to face the issue of building or reconstructing a school. I would have meetings in local restaurants and invite parents to come in or community members to come in. And while I gave them cookies and cider, I also explained the needs that we had so people understand. Many times they come to the polls and they don't really understand what they're voting for because the dynamics are not always clear or publicized to people. I would say we have seniors as well, so you want to go to the senior center, you want to go to the parent-teacher organizations, you want to go to any group where there are people who are going to vote, so you can explain to them, now whatever way they vote, well, I can't control that, but what I can control is the information I give out. As a member of the school committee, I would certainly push to have as much communication as possible in some of the ways that I just mentioned.
I believe in life. Transparency is a very important thing. I try to be very transparent with my children and with my relationships. And I also believe that in any setting, that is also true. So just trying to convey that, the message, trying to pass the needs of the community and explain what we're trying to do, what we're trying to accomplish, and just being as transparent as we can with the community.
Thank you. One of the partners in our sponsorship of this event is the Medfield Environmental Action. We have a very strong Medfield Energy Committee. The town has made commitments to net zero in 2050, and the schools have a bunch of buildings, around town, and I'm just wondering if you might speak to those issues of and the models that can be created for young kids coming through those schools about those kinds of issues having to do with how the schools might be able to promote or inspire consistent energy perspectives and environmental perspectives.
Can you clarify the question?
Yeah, I can. So I guess the town has made a commitment to trying to meet certain energy goals, you know, in the long run. And I guess the perspective that I'm looking for is, you know, how can the schools, where we have 5 buildings, contribute and land and other things, and also a bunch of young minds to, you know, to help to speak to, contribute to our objective, our long-range strategic objective of trying to meet energy and environmental kind of
The goal.
objectives. The goal,
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, the new generation, they're very attuned to these, to the needs of, well, we have electric cars now. They understand the needs of change in the energy preservation or conservation of energy, rather, sense. So uh, I believe, I honestly, I don't have an opinion on how to talk to the children about this. Um, I believe it's a new generation. They would be fine-tuned to this kind of change, but I haven't thought about it, to be
Okay,
honest.
yeah. Rosalie, any thoughts about or
Yes,
experiences with?
I would say actions speak louder than words, so we have to put into action the things we wish children to understand. If we use energy sources that are more compatible with climate change, with the things that we know today, I think when we can show children that we live that way, not just to say what we want to happen, it's very important. Also, as we decide how to reconstruct or build a new school, whichever that decision may be, we certainly have the opportunity to add energy situations that will be more responsible to the climate and to the use of fuels that make it safer for us to live in the world. So once again, we will need new roofs in the coming future. Are there better materials to use? Are there more heating sources that are going to be more responsible? And are there lighting systems that will take up less energy? Those things can be talked to children about, but when we act on it, when we actually put in lights and energy and heating that says what we really mean, then I think it's what children will see is what they get.
I think final questions before we have just some closing statements has to do with, and maybe this is a post-COVID concern, but there seems to be more focus on well-being and mental health of students and staff to a degree over the past couple of years. And just wondering if either of you have thoughts or prescriptions or ideas around that topic.
Well, safety is important. Understanding good hygiene, making sure there are signs everywhere that say wash your hands. Again, following some simple constructs of how to stay healthy. Helping parents to understand when to send their children to school and when not to. Understanding, again, that we all need to be safe and that we are a community and that what happens to one person will affect the needs of another. That's social responsibility, which is extremely important and something, in some cases, that we might be losing around the country. There is a sense that we need to be here for one another. We need to consider one another. And so sneezing without Kleenex or tissue, having situations set up so that they're best in terms of health would be the way to go.
Caroline?
Yes, I believe that mental health, I believe that Medfield has, well, this Blake Middle School has mental health professionals available. Um, I've on IEP meetings, we always have a psychologist on the table. It's I believe we're doing a good job in regards to that, but mental health really, together, of course, with our physical health, um, um, definitely needs to be a priority, especially I don't know why, but after COVID, things have been difficult for many families, still are difficult. COVID was hard. And people are recovering. So yeah, I believe we should always keep investing in dealing with that, in helping people.
Yeah, I add something to that.
Please, yeah.
I would agree with you extremely that mental health is extremely important, social health as well. How to talk with one another, how to care for one another. Not be afraid if you have some emotional issues that you need to talk to someone about, which of course means strong counseling positions in the school. I have a degree in counseling psychology, and so I really do support the success and the strength of the counseling positions in the school to help students. Some students have a great family situation where they can talk about things and other students don't. So I agree that social, emotional health is extremely important in our days and times.
Just before closing statement, one curiosity question. So we have, I think, a competitive election. You have four candidates running for two positions. And I guess my question to each of you is, how are you trying to reach? How are you, you got in this because obviously you would like to be elected and serve on our school committee. And tell me a little bit about approach to campaigning to reach people so they can know more about you and determine whether you are the candidate or one of the two candidates that they should be electing. What's the campaign look like?
My big campaign looks like approaching my neighbors and knocking their doors and talking to them. And yes, and Medfield TV, thanks to Medfield TV, and being here. And trying to talk to as many people as I can. I talk to people at Brothers, at CVS, parents at the school, and no big campaign.
Yeah.
This is it. It's just grassroots movement.
Thank you.
I have signs and postcards. I was at the dump several hours on Saturday with my husband. The only thing we were missing was a baby to kiss. But we certainly got the attention of many people driving in and out of the dump. I have signs to hold over the weekends. And of course, as you were saying, I talked to all of my neighbors and have gone from house to house, trying to get their support and to listen to the things I have to say. It's more than just their support. I'm hoping that they will understand my ideas and think that I am a candidate that will carry out the best possibilities for Medfield, but definitely talking, being on TV, which I appreciate, being able to stand outside of Shaw's or wherever and just say, are you a Medfield voter? I'd like to share with you what I believe. And so I continue to do that, and we'll do that up until the very last moment. We'll have our signs and postcards out there and just try to get across my beliefs.
Just a good reminder to the folks out there that Election Day is March 31st, so a week from next Monday. Our polls in Medfield open at 6 a.m. And that you have till this Friday, if you're not registered to register to vote for that election. And I just want to thank again each of you for doing what you're doing and stepping forward, and I think it makes a huge difference. And one of the reasons I asked the last question about how are you trying to reach people is I think you both have a story to tell, and it would be great if, really in the town, if more people would hear from folks like you about your views, your experiences, the ideas that you bring to this process. So if we could figure out a way to stir that up more and more, it would be a benefit to the community, particularly when we have school committee is an important position, and we have a variety of strong candidates. So with that said, I'll let you provide your closing remarks, if any, and
Well, thank you so much for being here and listening to us and participating in this democratic event.
thank you.
Well, I wanted to share that I'm not just a school committee candidate, but I have a life outside of that as well. So what does a retired superintendent do with her time? Well, I'm an educational consultant, a costume guide on the Freedom Trail. I work in a clothing boutique. I'm a Medfield poll worker and a member of the Historical Society, and I continue to work in theater among other interests such as horseback riding. However, one is never too busy to become involved in something as important as the Medfield public school system. The future will be in the hands of our graduates. We owe them the best education we can provide. I would consider it an honor to be part of the work of the school committee. I'm ready to go on day one, having experienced so many years in public education. I have kept up with the major issues of the day and have experience with the MSBA, the Massachusetts School Building Association, as we work together to rethink the Dale Street School, and I'm looking forward to understanding the issues presented to Medfield specifically by gaining knowledge from the members of the school committee and school personnel, along with community and student interests. What I do know, as I mentioned recently, is that Boston Magazine placed Medfield 8 among 141 cities and towns, and that our hallmark is our school system. It is a shining one, and we want to keep it shining. So I want to say that besides being a hallmark of a great town, wanting to keep it that way, I want to be part of a group that helps to propel it even higher. I've always put my students first. The main reason we have a public school is to provide the best we have to offer the children of Medfield, along with ensuring that teachers have the resources needed to teach. A good education is their ticket out. So my final concluding remarks are this. What is important, really important, is that each person of voting age goes to the polls on March 31st to speak to your vision for the system. I will see you at the polls, and thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Well, thank you both for being here. It was very informative, and I hope many, many people in town have an opportunity to be able to view this forum. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very well done. Very well done.